Alex Karp just said the unthinkable, and it explains why Palantir dominates AI deployment while competitors struggle. I'll play the clip in just a second, but if you want to understand how companies like Palantir actually use AI in the real world, the infrastructure, the data layer, and tools like ontology that make AI valuable, I built a course that explains it all step by step. When you buy now, you get lifetime access to everything, including all future modules. The price will only increase as we expand, so now's the lowest it will ever be. Over to Karp.
We are mercilessly and proudly patriotic, that's obvious, but I think one of the things that is often implicit in why we've been in our success and that we really came to see as a huge advantage when we moved into commercial, primarily US commercial, was, when we went to the government, in the beginning it was the FBI, the CIA, ended up being Special Operations Command. We had this very naive idea that because we were patriotic, we would just build things that work, where we would absorb the value creation responsibility, meaning the risk that we would provide more value for these incredibly special people than what they could pay us. And that germ of an idea is actually probably the single most radical thing we ever did. It went from PG, which is the Intel product. Actually, the architecture of that product, the security model, and our interactions with NLP technology really, years later, gave us insights that were really important for building ontology. Actually, the original ontology precursor was patented, I think, by Bob McGrew and Aki Jain, two very famous technologists, one at Palantir, one went on to be a very important early researcher at OpenAI. And then we built a number of other products, Gaia for the Special Operations Command. So the products that powered those news stories, Maven, which has changed the battlefield, and then later in commercial, Foundry, which many of you use, ontology, AIP, the idea that you would need orchestration to make large language models valuable. How do you work downstream of that? FDEs as opposed to just handing you the product. The way I think that Palantir is divergent from software Silicon Valley companies is that because we absorbed the value and because actually we thought the soldiers who were going to battle were more important than we were, which at the time did not take much, but I mean morally, we built products and a whole culture, FDE, internal orchestration, how we prioritize things, how we learn about your specific use cases, how we really never try to become the expert or become your business. We want your business to be the specific, enhance the specificity of it, make it the very best business in the world. We do not want you to be a commodity. We built something that's quite radical. That's just not how Silicon Valley companies actually work. The job of a Silicon Valley software company is to take your revenue, transfer it into their company and get a higher multiple and buy you a steak dinner. That's the job. This is why analysts didn't like us. We couldn't get bankers to underwrite Palantir. I mean, part of the reason why I wanted to do a DPO is because instead of handing huge amounts of money, or as retail investors, meaning people investing their own money, call it tendies, to bankers, I wanted to make sure that normal people participated. But it was also, bankers were like, wait a minute, you're selling a product where there's no automatic, the only lock-in is that you're going to create more value tomorrow than you did today, and that you're going to get paid downstream of value, and there's no sales force paying for golf and steak dinners, and the people we met that even try to do that are unpleasant. They were like, you're not going to make any money, and we sure as hell aren't going to make money. And those people, and honestly, they still hate us. I can't find a banker that likes me. I'm like, could you look at my bank account? Take a meeting with me, please. None of them will meet with me even today. I'm not. This is not hyperbolic. Like, you would think I'd be able to talk to any banker now. They're like, the door's closed everywhere. But because of those early moments, the formative moment of we must create value for these people who are risking their lives. And it has to be productized to the point where you can use it in Afghanistan, in Iraq. We built this culture of, we're non-parasitic relationship. And I really value those people. And I hope that what you sense in our partnerships with you is that we actually really are, with Ontology, Foundry, AIP, and our FDEs, we are aspiring to lift you, and that we only actually get rewarded over time where your business thrives. And by the way, this just makes being at Palantir a lot more fun, because for all the crazy things we do, and we do crazy things, we blew up a massive deployment in the US government because a general asked me to talk to somebody else and was like, hey, I want to talk to your FDEs about some of my great ideas. And of course the people were like, no, that idea is stupid, but you're not smart enough to know how stupid it is. And so that set us back years. You can accuse us of a lot of things. The thing about Palantir, though, is we really are actually trying to supply software and LLM management in the form of ontology that makes your business better. And that is a really cool thing because you will, over time, grow to like us. And it's just much more fun on the inside. And so that's the fact that this is working like at a massive level of scale is actually even surprising to us. I would say we have many of the leaders of Palantir here. I don't think any of us thought it could work this well. I hope you have a great time. The very confusing thing about this revolution is because the value is not in being a commodity, really the people who select and figure out a way to do it correctly are just going to do much better than the people who don't exert agency. And so the mere fact that we're finding ways to work together, and it's also country specific. I spent half my life in Germany, and no one's interested in this stuff in Germany right now. That's a huge problem. So with that, happy times, very happy. I'm delayed you came here, and pretty cool place to have a get together. And take care.
Alex Karp did something the entire software industry considers unthinkable. He built a company that only makes money when customers actually succeed, not when they get trapped in contracts they can't escape. While every other enterprise software company optimizes for vendor lock-in, forced upgrades, and extracting maximum revenue regardless of value, Palantir created a business model where their compensation follows customer success. Palantir's decision to absorb risk and create value for soldiers before getting paid established a business model where they only profit when customers thrive, which sounds noble, but actually creates the strongest moat, because switching costs come from delivered value rather than contractual traps. Every enterprise software company operates on the same playbook. Sell a big contract up front, lock customers into multi-year agreements, make switching expensive through proprietary data formats and complex integrations, force upgrades to maintain support, extract maximum revenue regardless of whether customers actually get value. The sales process involves steak dinners, golf outings, and building relationships with procurement departments rather than the people who use the software. This model works because enterprise buyers optimize for minimizing career risk, not maximizing business value. Nobody gets fired for buying IBM or Oracle, even if the software doesn't deliver. Palantir inverted this completely. They told the government and military customers that Palantir would absorb the risk of building software that works. Payment came downstream of value delivery, not upfront through contracts. This seemed insane from a business perspective. You're spending millions developing software with no guarantee of payment. You're giving customers the option to walk away if the product doesn't deliver. Every business school teaches that this model fails because customers have no incentive to pay once they have the software. The counterintuitive insight is that absorbing customer risk and getting paid for delivered value creates stronger relationships than contractual lock-in. When soldiers in Afghanistan depend on Palantir software to stay alive, and that software actually works better than alternatives, they become advocates who demand Palantir gets funded. When a commercial customer sees their business improve immeasurably from Palantir deployment, they increase their spend because more investment generates more value. The lock-in comes from results, not contracts. This creates a completely different competitive dynamic. Traditional enterprise software companies defend their position through switching costs. Customers hate the product but can't leave because migration would be too expensive and disruptive. I have encountered this firsthand. They're trapped, which creates stable revenue, but also means customers spend the entire relationship looking for alternatives. The moment a credible competitor appears with lower switching costs, customers defect immediately. The moat is shallow despite appearing strong. Palantir's moat deepens over time because value delivery compounds. The ontology they build for customers becomes more valuable as more data and processes get integrated. The AI orchestration improves as it learns the specific business context. The forward deployed engineers understand the customer's operations better than anyone else including the customer's own IT team. Switching costs exist because they come from having to rebuild all this accumulated value with a new vendor, not from contractual penalties or technical lock-in. For Palantir, if the deployment doesn't work, they don't get paid, so leadership gets directly involved in making sure implementations succeed. Everyone's incentives align around actual customer outcomes rather than just closing deals. The model also changes how Palantir hires and operates. Traditional enterprise software companies hire salespeople who can navigate procurement processes and play corporate politics. Palantir hires forward-deployed engineers who can solve actual business problems.